in this lecture, we're going to talk about requirements engineering. And as we talked about in the software development lifecycle model, the requirements are kind of what the system needs to do. So it doesn't really concern how it's done, but just what needs to be done between the client and the programmer or developers. Now, what requirements engineer is concerned with is getting those very detailed specifications and pretty much what needs to be done, as I mentioned before, to fulfill what the client wants. And we talked about that waterfall model before, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a brief outline to reiterate what it is. So first we have our requirements, which I'll just abbreviate as that. So we collect the requirements, then we design our system. Then after that, we code the system. Then we do system testing. Then we deliver the final system to the client. And the reason why I bring this up is because I want to just illustrate how important requirements engineering is. So in this fifth step, the final step, the delivery phase, if there is actually we're also going to look at this third phase right here. So we're going to look right here. If there is just a simple programming error, so just a error in this third phase, and you don't catch it until it's after it's delivered, it's going to cost you 10 times the amount to fix if you caught it in this third phase. But if we talk about a requirement error, that's going to increase to 100 times the cost to fix requirements. So that's the reason why it's so important to decide these requirements early and to get them very precise and well defined. Because if you wait until the end to get the feedback and you realize you got your requirement wrong because there was some miscommunication between the developer and the information, the requirements document, that's going to cost you 100 times more than if you, and we're not even talking how much you would save if you did it before you code, but if you caught it while you code, that would save you 100 times the cost for that specific module or that specific requirement, which is obviously, a big deal, which is why this requirement engineering is so important in software engineering. Now, what are some things that can go wrong with gathering requirements? And we're going to switch colors to green. And here are just some things that can go wrong. You can have insufficient involvement. So it can just be anyone within the process. So it can be the person gathering the information, the person given the information. If someone isn't sufficiently involved, and they should be, you're going to get not very accurate requirements. And another one is ambiguous information. Naturally, you want to be as precise as possible. You don't want to leave any stone unturned. If they say they want that, make sure you clarify what they actually want, because just a very simple example, we're just gonna create a new layer here. Let's say, just for example, ambiguous information, I want a hello world program. I want a program that displays hello world. And to one person that might mean, oh, I need to create a window and it needs to say hello world. But what that person could actually meant, oh, I want something that displays hello world. He might have meant something that he wants, say like a button. And once you press that button, it says hello world. And that's something you kind of have to, I suppose, clarify. That also comes in with the sufficient involvement. You want them to realize, hey, if you want something just to pop up, I can't do that. You have to tell me I need button to press that displays this message for you. So the other things that can go wrong with requirements engineering is just gold plating. Now, gold plating is actually almost the opposite of this example right here. So they want this hello world program. Gold plating would be if the client just wants this first example, just a nice window says hello world. But me as a developer, I'm like, it'd be better if I included this button that when you press it, it displays it. That's gold plating. That means you take your requirements, and these are very defined. This is exactly what the client wants. But you think, oh, well, that's not good. And then you add stuff to it, like this button. So he said just a simple window to display hello world, and I thought, that's not the best way to do it. I'm gonna add this button to it. And in the end, you get something that the user isn't satisfied with, and you actually end up spending more money. So just stick to the requirements and make sure that they're correct and thorough the first time. Don't leave any ambiguities, and don't gold plate is kind of the advice I would give. Now, there's actually 4 different, I suppose, aspects to requirements engineering, and I'll go through just what the 4 are, and then in separate lectures we'll go more in depth. So we have 4 components of our requirements engineering, and the first one is elicitation. And I guess I'll just do a brief elicitation is the kind of the gathering of the information. This is asking the client what they want, etc. And just make sure you have those very precise requirements. The next is analysis. This is when you're just, as the name would imply, you're analyzing all the stuff you collected all the data you collect in the elicitation phase. And then 3, we have specifications. And this is kind of just finalizing your requirements, documentation, etc. Then validation, you are checking back with the client to make sure you have valid requirements, that all the requirements you have correct and they satiate their needs. And again, in future lectures, we'll talk about what each of these 4 components of requirements engineering specifically entail, including like the different ways you can elicit, all things that should go into a requirements documentation, etc.